Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conscious Conversations. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn. So I'm the spiritual head of the Transformation Center based in Westport, Connecticut. You know, at the center, we do a variety of workshops, classes. We have sound baths in the backyard in the warm months. Lots going on both online, on Zoom, and in person. And I also have individual sessions with clients for healing and coaching. So all of that is available, and you can check out our website. And we're going to put up the contact info now. It's transformationcenterct.com. So please visit us, especially if you're curious and just want some information. Happy to speak with you at any time. Thank you. And, you know, I started the Conscious Conversation show because I love meeting new people and finding out what they're up to and what makes them tick, you know, like what is their passion. So today my guest is Dr. Gary Gruber. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here with you.
Yeah, this is great. So we're just going to talk about a variety of things, but before I do, I'm just going to introduce you and just read a little bit about you.
Sure.
Of course, there's pages that I could read about Dr. Gruber because he does a lot of different things and has in the past as well. So I have a little succinct piece here. So Dr. Gruber is a naturopathic physician who is highly trained in both conventional and traditional or natural medicine. So he has a private practice in New Canaan, Connecticut. And, you know, he's a certified practitioner of heart math, which I do want to hear a little bit about that today while we're talking. Mm-hmm. And what it is in a nutshell, it's a technique that aids patients with stress and emotional management. So that sounds really important. So what we're going to talk about mainly, I think, is his passion is the mind-body connection that helps patients achieve permanent health and vitality. Yeah, and one of the things he uses for that is heart strength therapy.
Right.
Yes, which I've never heard of, so I'm interested to find out more.
Yep.
So I know you could talk a long time about your background because I usually ask people, like, how did you get interested in the field you're in? Mm-hmm. Is there anything you want to share about that?
No, because it will take
like
it'll
days.
take the whole day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, but I'll tell you a little bit. I was out of undergraduate school. I did work as a CPA. And I have a pretty long history in financial advisory, financial management. And I left that business, okay. Yep. When I was, I think, 38 years old, and went back to school, and went to medical school, yes. And then, and that's what, you know, where I am today. And that's a whole nother session as to why that happened. But
maybe we'll have to do another interview about
that. Exactly.
But did it have something to do with, like, now you're helping people with stress management? Did it have something to do with stress you experienced?
Not exactly. It has to do with the business that I was in was very focused on fear and greed. That's the financial business. Mm-hmm. And I realized after a spiritual awakening that it wasn't really right for me. So, you know, that's how I found myself becoming a naturopathic physician.
Okay. Well, I mean, to me, that's really very meaningful, very important for people to hear that, that there's other options, no matter what our background is, no matter what our family expectations are, you know, whatever, wherever we find ourselves, to know that we always have other choices.
What happened was, it was just when I finally made the decision to go back to medical school, and naturopathic medicine was the right direction to go. Everything just fell into line. Wow. And it was a perfect path. It was easy, and I'm still doing it, and I love what I'm doing. Yeah. When I came out of medical school, in naturopathic medicine, you can start practicing right away. You don't have to go through residency like conventional doctors do. You can do that, but I chose not to. And I opened my own practice, but in deciding how to do that, I wanted to have a holistic practice, and I recognized that treating people physically, emotionally, and spiritually was very, very important. Putting all of the pieces together for my patients. So one of the things that I studied early on is heart math. Heart math is a system for helping people with emotional management. So that was the emotional piece that I worked on, along with, the physical piece is what you learn in medical school. All the diagnostics, all of the treatments, whether it's natural or pharmaceutical, we learn all of that. And I chose, quite frankly, to use homeopathic medicines and herbal medicines and nutrition to help my patients in those early years as I was developing the practice with heart math. And I'm a certified heart math practitioner.
Okay, so so is that a separate training that you got when you say you're certified?
Yes,
Wow, that worked.
and so I took a course with heart math, and I had to present a case to a panel of researchers from heart math research, and I chose a case that was based on Lyme disease, and it was very interesting because patient, and this was a real patient, and they published my study as well. Patient came to me with Lyme disease, but it was very, very chronic and on antibiotics, and she just wasn't getting better. And the antibiotics was really hurting her liver and her system, so she had to get off the antibiotics. In heart math, we do something called heart rate variability. And heart rate variability is the way your heart speeds up and slows down. And it's a very natural thing. Your heart is supposed to do that in order to accommodate stress. So in our session, when I'm first meeting a patient, and I do this every patient, is I do a heart rate variability study. Okay, and I can determine through heart rate variability whether a person is internally stressed because it measures what's called the autonomic nervous system, how the heart speeds up and slows down. And if it looks like this process is very chaotic, well, the person's under a lot of stress. And if it's very nicely balanced, well, the person is got good neurological balance.
Gotcha.
This particular patient with Lyme disease was very, very stressed, very chaotic. And so in that session, I taught her how to do one of the very basic tools in heart math, which is called the neutral tool. It's just, and it was amazing. For her, it was actually amazing, and she recovered from Lyme disease. There was no medicine involved, there was some tweaking of the diet, but basically she recovered from Lyme disease by learning the heart math tools.
Wow, that's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, in the earlier years, before there was any certification, heart math was just coming on board, like in 2001. So I had to teach myself a lot, but the certification just took me to another level. And they teach you tools, they teach you about the basics of heart rate variability, but not really how to practice with it. So I had to figure that part out. And so I would have patients come knowing that they needed emotional management, and in one session I would try to teach them everything. That was not a good strategy, okay?
Yeah,
it really wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot to learn and a
little
lot, and you have to practice to be good at it. It's like anything else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so a number of years passed, and I think it was probably 2014, somewhere around there, that I took a step back and started looking at all my patient charts. And I analyzed them and put them into separate buckets. And what I found out was when I focused on heart math initially with a patient, the likelihood of them getting better quicker was in that group versus if I postponed it and did work on the physical. So that kind of told me that working on the emotional management piece was more important than working on the physical. And that kind of led me into doing the mind-body medicine. Now, there's a lot more to mind-body medicine, and what I developed ultimately is something I call heart strength therapy, okay? And this combines the heart math tools with something called character strengths. Character strengths. So character strengths comes out of positive psychology.
Yeah.
And it's amazing when we combine the heart math or the heart math tools with character strengths, positive character strengths, the patient just moves so quickly into rebalancing their emotional life. So I use it with anxiety and depression and all kinds of things that once you get the emotional management piece under control, then the body is amazing. It comes into its own natural balance, and the hormones start to balance, and the immune system starts to balance, because they're all affected by the heart rate variability. So that's the basis.
Wow.
Yes.
So that's a lot. So I'll have a million questions.
And it's not even the end, because I combine transactional analysis, which is Eric Byrne's work, and then I take it one step further, which is the spiritual component, and that has to do with the map of consciousness and Dr. David Hawkins' work, and I've been a student of his since 2003. So that's that puts the whole piece together.
Right, it does.
Yeah,
It does.
yeah.
You kind of get a sense of the overall, the whole way, like it all connects. But I think one question I have to start is, so what did you attribute the fact that if you started with the emotional component first
Yes.
and then followed with the physical, you said it worked better?
Correct. So what's going on is that when someone is, when their heart rate variability is chaotic, that means likely that there's some kind of emotional issue going on, and it could be conscious or it could be unconscious.
Okay.
That's something that we have to uncover in the work that we do. But again, when you have some kind of emotional issue going on in the background throughout your life, maybe it's fear, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, sadness, and there's many other negative emotions that affect your heart rate variability. And so what we do know is that when your heart rate variability is chaotic, that will suppress your immune system and affect your hormones. Okay? So when we undo that emotional piece, or we at least manage it correctly, then we can have the body automatically correct the hormones, the neurological component of the systems, as well as the immune system. Remember, the body is designed for survival. Okay, that's what it's designed for. And when I write about this on my website, is that when you're being chased through the woods by a bear, okay, or you have no choice. Your body is just naturally going to go into the fight or flight mechanism. Well, we know that the fight or flight mechanism has an influence on your brain, and it has an influence on your hormones, and it affects your immune system. It's all interconnected. And so when someone has some kind of a symptom, it could be just emotional, but it also could be, I can't get rid of this cough, or I've got headaches all the time. There is likely some kind of emotional component behind all of that, because the body is telling you something is out of balance. I kind of think of the body like a three-legged stool. You've got one leg is the immune system, one leg is the neurological system, and one is the hormonal system. And they all talk to each other, okay? And when this communication is harmonious, you have no symptoms. But when one of the legs is out of balance, that stool just can't stay stable, and you're going to have some kind of a symptom. And that's how the body talks to us.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Right.
There's so much You know, we were talking earlier about how the body holds everything. So if there's something awry, you know, then it's going to, if it's not addressed, then it's going to be stuck, and then it's going to keep affecting us
Correct.
very, very
Correct.
different ways over the years. Yeah.
That's right, because you always get into a cycle where one story, one negative story, one emotional thing just keeps it snowballs into the next one. It's like an avalanche until someone really, really gets sick. That's how it
Right,
works.
and that's what the body's telling us.
Yeah.
So when, you know, it's almost like this chicken or the egg thing. So when you talk about heart rate variability that causes these issues,
Yes.
but the heart rate variability is caused by emotional
Correct.
issues.
Correct.
So when you address that, do you address the underlying causes, and then the heart automatically,
So first,
like a therapy?
yeah. So in heart strength therapy,
It's a therapy.
right? There are 3 sessions, and the first session is just to become aware of your emotions. Okay, it's awareness. Okay, now. Not always very easy to be aware of emotions, particularly if they're unconscious emotions, but what we try to do is help a patient just become aware of their breath. Now, believe it or not, if you're not breathing deeply, okay, and you're not breathing slowly and deeply, you're causing stress in your body, and that causes the heart rate variability to become chaotic, okay? So the first step is I help people recognize that they're just not breathing, and that alone can cause anxiety. That alone can cause anxiety, right?
Yes.
Right.
Totally.
So the first step is to practice being aware of your breath, and then you move into your emotions. And when you are aware of a negative emotion that just pops up and you're going through this story in your head, you what we call neutralize it. That's the first tool that we use in heart math. Okay?
Right, because our thoughts create the emotions. And
Correct.
you know, speaking of breathing, a little bit off topic, I was just reading this morning how the chancellor and the mayor in New York are making breathing mandatory in the public schools in New York.
Really? I didn't know that people weren't breathing in
I
this.
know. It's hard to believe. They're going to teach them how to breathe.
Well, that's
I
actually
love that.
that's
I love
actually
that.
pretty
I know,
good.
I know.
I'm
I had to
happy
just
about
fit
that.
that in.
Yeah,
Because you're
it's
right.
good because anxiety, we can create anxiety in anyone by having them hold their breath. Because of this survival mechanism, that's just how
a
it
natural
works.
response.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, you know, people come to the office and we're chatting, and you know, I'm listening to what they're saying, but also paying attention to their breathing. And it's like, you know, did you know that you haven't taken a breath in like 50 seconds? And no. Well, you should be breathing a little bit more frequently and a little bit deeper.
Well, I think that was the point that they made, was that we are not taught in our culture that breathing is important. That, or not just breathing, but certain way of breathing, deep breathing.
Correct.
You know, calm way to breathe, that type of thing.
So awareness is the first step. The next step is building resilience. And the interesting thing about that is that we all have stressors throughout our day. We have them throughout the week. They're always going to be there. You can't get rid of them. But what you want to be able to do is, when you are immersed in a stress, you want to be able to correct it very quickly. And so that's what building resilience is. So there's another tool to do that. It's called the quick coherence tool. And so I tell patients that the HeartMath has done research on building resilience, and they found that if they taught the quick coherence tool to first responders versus a group of responders who just were told to relax after a particular emergency, that it took so much longer for the people who just relaxed to really recover from that emergency. And there were a lot of differences between health issues between both groups. So building resilience is probably more important than just being aware. That being said, it's very easy to build resilience. So you can practice anytime. So you're listening to me right now, you could be building resilience right now. So you just have to learn the technique and how to do it. And I know that you're doing it because I can see how you're responding to everything that I'm saying. Right, you're doing it right now. You are. I know.
That's great.
You know, you are doing
We're
it.
multitasking.
Yeah, exactly. So no, you can do the building resilience tool anywhere, and that gets you to recover your heart rate variability when there is an emergency. And I can tell you, I've had to do this many, many times in my life, and so I know it works.
It's
I know.
really valuable.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And then the last piece of this is to really change patterns, changing those emotional patterns that we always go to.
Yes.
And that's kind of like what you would say, maybe like rewiring the brain, but you can do that.
Absolutely.
You can rewire the brain. You can change the patterns of neurological tissue from negative to positive. And that's the third step, and that is what we call heart lock-in. So those are the three steps.
I just realized I think we're just about out of time.
I know, there's so much to talk about.
There's so much to talk about.
Yes.
Well, this was great having you,
yeah,
Gary.
thank you.
Maybe we could do part 2.
We can.
We
Absolutely.
can.
There's
Well,
so much to learn.
And thanks to everybody for joining us today. And thanks to the Westport Library for having us, Verso Studios. Bye-bye. Namaste.